Okay, welcome back, everyone. We just finished talking about our first lever, that first strategy for shifting the boulder out of the way and leveraging your patient base. And that first lever was to get your patients to come back more often, which is to return more often. Once we get them to come back more often, we're going to start to put our second lever to work. And you'll notice that you don't have to use the levers in order, but you'll notice there's a certain logic to the progression here, and that the levers build on each other. Our second lever is more revenue per visit, or more dollars per visit. So what we're using the first lever, we're getting our patients to come back more often. We're leveraging that patient base. Once we get them back, we want to get them to spend a little more each time that they come back to visit us. So we've got some strategies for doing that. The first one is probably about as straightforward as you can get, which is to raise your prices. I mentioned at the beginning, if you haven't raised your prices, you haven't changed your rates in 3 years or more, then you really want to consider it. And there's a few reasons for this. Part of it is because of inflation. So you'll see the tiny dollar bill there. Every dollar you're receiving now is worth a little bit less than it was a few years ago when you received it. Over the course of your time in practice, your costs are continuing to rise. The cost of your staff, your supplies, your rent, your utilities, all these things tend to rise over time, so that the amount of money you're getting to keep is gradually being chipped away at over time in your practice. So for the simple reason, if no other, because of inflation, you should consider raising your prices. Perhaps an even better reason is that you're better at this than you were a few years ago. I think that's true of everyone, that we get better over time, we gain experience, we gain wisdom, and there's no reason that there shouldn't be some sort of correlation between your level of expertise and experience and your compensation. And lastly, when we raise prices, pretty much all that money is money we get to keep. So if you raise your prices by 5% or 10%, most of that money is flowing directly to you, which is always rewarding in practice. In terms of your price raises, just consider planning them in advance. People often ask me if we raise our prices every year, and we don't. Usually every 2 to 3 years. I think at the most, about every 2 to 3 years is when we do a price hike, but they're always planned in advance. The reason being is that I like to plan them. There are sometimes things that happen that you don't want a price hike to correlate with or to correspond with. So for example, when we went on sabbatical, we left our practice, we left the business for 6 months. We went and traveled and did volunteer work in South America. And we planned our next price change around that well in advance, so that it didn't look like we were raising our prices to pay for a vacation. We had some legislative changes in our profession, and that changed the level of tax that we were required to charge our patients. And so we didn't want to have a price hike or a fee increase and a tax increase at the same time, because it would have sort of led to this huge price increase all at once for the patient from their perspective. So there's sometimes you need to plan around things. I'm not big on hiking prices at the same time every year and the same date. Some people do, and that's fine. But I don't like it to be that predictable. So just plan them in advance. I want to make a quick comment. We had an interesting shift in the way we delivered care, and it won't apply to all of you. Depending on your style of practice, it may or may not apply to you. There's a fair bit of consultation in our practice as well. So in addition to the actual treatment tools that our doctors use, and there's a fair bit of simple follow-up time, consult time, counseling time, that type of thing. And it's basically just time in a room spent working with a patient. And it's, you know, initially when people were coming out of practice, you know, our doctors were sort of trained in this model of a 30-minute follow-up visit. And that's fine. It's kind of what you learn and away you go. What we discovered over time is that a lot of patients didn't need 30 minutes. That a lot of follow-ups could be done in a much shorter period of time, 15 minutes. And we started offering this 15-minute visit. And we priced the 15-minute visit, of course, at about 60% of a 30-minute visit. So if a 30-minute visit was $80, or say a 30-minute visit was $60, a 15-minute visit, we didn't price it at $30, we priced it at $35 or $40. So 2 15-minute visits was always worth more than a 30-minute visit. We've done a huge amount of our follow-ups now. We're now in this 15-minute mode. And so what we've discovered is, number one, this is good for patients. They can have the 30 minutes anytime they need it, but why bring someone in for a longer appointment than they need? So they're able to come in and pay less for a follow-up visit than they originally were, but we can see more patients and earn more. Our doctors can earn more per hour using these shorter visits, see more patients, and everyone is happier simply by changing our treatment time structure a little bit. Now, that's not applicable to obviously to every form of treatment, but it's something to bear in mind that it is possible to effectively raise your rates without necessarily actually raising your rate. So you can raise your effective rate just by shortening treatment times, which may or may not be an option for you. But certainly you can, if it is applicable to you, maybe something you want to consider.
For more information on this or other ProD live, distance, or online courses, please visit www.prodseminars.com.